Halifax Sports Talk, Andrew and Daeden with you here to get you set for the weekend. And Daeden, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but man, oh man, this Halifax Mooseheads team looks unbelievable right now. We keep on talking about how young they are, and this team's going to progress and continue to grow. I think it's about time we stop talking about progression and talk about the present. This team looks pretty damn good right now.
The QMJHL or the CHL released their power rankings this past week. And there was one team that's not in there from the QMJHL that I think will be there next week. And that's the Halifax Mooseheads, because they just knocked off the top-ranked Blainville-Boisbriand Armada. They were without Bill Zonin, who was a first-rounder this year for Pittsburgh. But they still have guys like Xavier Villeneuve, Justin Carbonneau, who also went first round to St. Louis this year. So they definitely, we've talked about it before, they definitely have a roster that you aren't going to shy away from. But this Halifax Mooseheads team walked in there. Oleg Kulibiakin kind of opened the scoring, and they kind of took control of the game ever since that third tying goal from Carrier. So we'll get into everything. But yeah, great Mooseheads team this year. I think the underdog style has really kind of pushed them to play with a certain type of passion. And Brad McKenzie, every time he walks into that dressing room, he's coming in hot, fiery. He's walking in. He's no clipboard throwing or anything like that, but he's to the point. He's like, all right, fellas. No, he actually doesn't say that. He says men. All right, men. And that's what I think is a big point. Brad McKenzie's treating these guys like men. So I don't know. I love it. I love the atmosphere in this Halifax room, and it's going good so far for the Mooseheads.
They look great. They look great. Speaking of looking great, you're doing very well with your post-game shows. Guys, if you aren't watching those, you can find Daeden every single post-game, every single game is a post-game show up on our YouTube channel. So make sure you guys check those out. I know you guys are enjoying those instant reactions. But we're going to talk a little bit of Mooseheads here today, touch on the AUS football semifinals once again, and then get you guys set and locked and loaded for the weekend. But it's just so exciting right now looking at what this Mooseheads team has done. We've talked earlier in the season about the goaltending, how huge it's been, but well, you don't necessarily need your goalie when you're putting up the number of goals this team is scoring right now. Do the Mooseheads want to play in those types of games every game? They most certainly do not. But at the start of the season, Coach McKenzie said he wants to see more offense. He wants to see this team carry the puck a lot more. Well, I mean, I know that a lot of Canada and a lot of the Maritimes had their focus on the Toronto Blue Jays on Wednesday night. But Daeden, you did your post-game show. What were you impressed by with this Halifax Mooseheads team? I know there's a lot of goals scored, but what did you see from the team?
Well, first off, like you said, they don't want to be in this situation too much. Also, if you're Blainville, you don't want to be in this situation too much. If you score 5 goals in a hockey game, you should be able to win that game. But on the other side of things, Halifax, I love the way Oleg Kulibiakin is playing. The coaching staff said they want him to shoot more. They saw his shot last year in the highlight reels that they were seeing of him before they drafted him. They saw it in the preseason, and then he started to be a pass-first kind of guy. But they said, Oleg, shoot that puck. Last night, he walked in on the power play and ripped one, and it was beauty. So I can't say enough good things about Oleg Kulibiakin, and the guys on the back end were solid as well. The young guys, Malik Letellier and Cam Manella. So great job last night from the Mooseheads overall. A whole team effort starting from Brisson all the way up.
Yeah, the high-scoring victories, I got to admit, that's like the most like CHL thing you can see. Like, you know, we did see a Avalanche and Devils. I think it was a similar scoreline. Maybe 7-5 is close to what the scoreline was a couple days ago in the NHL. But let's be real. You don't really see a scoreline like that in the pros very often. That's why we love CHL hockey. It's just a little bit different that you can see these teams trading goals, and you will see a lower scoring style, especially closer to playoff time and in the playoffs. But sometimes these teams are just going to explode. Kulibiakin just continues to put on a show. But we've talked about it. There's been games where they haven't had him out there, you know, executing, and other guys has stepped up. Overall, Kilfoyle, I mean, we've talked about him a lot on the show, but what have you seen from him and since he got back from that Red Wings camp? I mean, last night, I feel like he just quietly had such an unbelievable game, and Kulibiakin's going to get all the flowers, but just expand a little bit on what you saw from him.
Yeah, so Kilfoyle's been a very solid player since coming back from the pros, and he said he took a lot of tips and kind of inside knowledge from the guys that were veterans in that Detroit locker room at main camp, and he kind of used that this year in Halifax. He's not going to go out there and be that big flashy point getter like we kind of expected him to be. He's going to be a more solid leader starting from the locker room out, going to make sure the rest of the guys are buying in. And a good team always has very good connection. Liam Kilfoyle, I think his job this season is to make sure that connection is there and the rest of the things will work themselves out. They've got the skill around the locker room. And if Kilfoyle wants to pot a couple goals here or there or get some assists like he did last night, they'll have no problem because he's found the back of the net a couple times on the empty net so far, a goal on a goaltender. So that's good to see for Kilfoyle, but he's going to be fine. And the Mooseheads have a great leader in their locker room.
Well, a great start to the road trip for this Halifax Mooseheads team. You've talked about the ability to get it done within the Maritimes Conference, and now you want to go out of conference and take on these Quebec teams, and certainly a good start, putting up 7 on the board, but 1 down and a couple to go here. They'll be in action once again Friday night, and it won't be an easy one by any means against a team that we know has been good for many years. What are your thoughts on this one? Obviously, you want to stay level-headed. Probably don't want to give up 5 in this next one, but what's this matchup appeal to you?
Yeah, so last year, we all know Rouyn-Noranda swept Halifax 4 games, but that was with a beaten, battled, and bruised Halifax Mooseheads team. They just went through 7 games against the top-ranked Drummondville Voltigeurs. Rouyn also is without Bill Zonin, who is injured for Blainville, so that's why he wasn't playing last night. But, I think it'll be a revenge game in a way for the Mooseheads. A couple of guys that might want to get another crack at the Huskies, or it'll just be another solid test for the Mooseheads. Even if they don't win this one, get 2 out of 3 wins on this road trip. I still think that's a win for the Mooseheads, coming away with 4 of 6 points.
Yeah, certainly a deep roster over there for Rouyn, and I like how you mentioned about that revenge. Like, it's cool to me when there's a rivalry in a league, but it's not even with a team within your own division. It's somebody else you're familiar with it being playoffs or players grew up together, whatever it might be. So we look forward to that one. And I got to say, before we talk about the Val-d'Or matchup, are we at a point right now where it's doesn't even make any sense for us to talk about like rankings and preseason thoughts for teams this Mooseheads team is playing? Because every headline is like Mooseheads stun top opponent, but maybe the Mooseheads are just that top team too. We keep talking about some of these opponents. The Mooseheads seem to be that team themselves. They look fantastic right now.
See, I think with junior hockey, most people think, okay, once you have your contending window, you're back into a 2-year rebuild at least. And this would have been that second year of that rebuild for Halifax. But that playoff run last year, getting past that first place Drummondville team, and you have a lot of young guys, but they learn from that and they gain experience. And I think Halifax just has an experienced young roster that is ahead of their time. I really think that this young team is surprising people. But like you said, sooner or later, they're going to have to stop putting stun or surprise in the headline because it's really not going to be a surprise too soon.
They're just looking good. They're playing good hockey, and consistency will be the key. Let's move on to our thoughts about their matchup against Val-d'Or. As Val-d'Or here coming in with this one, defensive struggles is something we can definitely headline for this Val-d'Or team, and seeing what the Mooseheads are doing offensively, they're going to probably want to shut that down and park the bus, to use a soccer metaphor. What are you seeing this season from Val-d'Or? Obviously, it kind of handicapping this game against Val-d'Or is tough because we haven't seen the game against Rouyn for the Halifax Mooseheads. But set the table for us. What's this matchup like here?
Yeah, so obviously Halifax is looking at this as a easy game to end off this road trip, but you can't say that against any opponent. So they're obviously going to have to come in, play a full 60, but I'm looking to guys like Samuel Fiala on the other side, a 20-year-old European. So he takes up 2 spots on that Val-d'Or roster, an import spot and a 20-year-old spot, which means he must be pretty good, which he is. Watched him over the past couple of years, and he's really been a driving force for Val-d'Or. Alex Durocher, shout out, follows me on TikTok. But he's been a great forward for them past couple of years. He was younger a couple of years ago, joining Val-d'Or as a 16-year-old, but he's kind of grew into his own and I believe he's going into his 90. This is his 19-year-old season, so he's a leader for Val-d'Or, but they sit bottom in that Western Conference, and it's going to be tough for them to climb out with teams like Rouyn-Noranda, Blainville at the top of that. So it'll be tough, but I don't think it's a matchup that the Mooseheads can just throw away.
Yeah, I think we'll know kind of what the feeling will be after we see kind of what the matchup against Rouyn goes like. But it's certainly a team that we can see the Mooseheads taking advantage of their defensive struggles. And we've got one win their last 6 or 7 games. I mean, it's not been good for them, but we often talk about that flat spot for a team, and if they end up getting that win against Rouyn, you don't want to fall victim to the exhale, feeling good about yourself, and then you end up losing the one you probably shouldn't lose to. I always say the good teams are the teams that can show up against everybody. And you don't want to be known as that team that beats a good team, and then all of a sudden you fall victim and fall flat against a bottom tier opponent. So there's a website that I used to use for my NHL stats, and I used to always look at teams' record against teams with an above 500 record or below 500 record. You'd be shocked how many like top echelon teams didn't really have a fantastic record against bottom 500 teams, below 500 teams. They almost just hit the exhale, don't really care about that game, and you see through it. So the hope is here with this Mooseheads team, you want to take everything team serious, just like how teams had to start taking this Mooseheads team serious.
Definitely, you don't want to create bad habits, especially at this age. Junior hockey, like you said earlier, some of the high scoring matchups come from little mistakes that you see at the junior level that you don't really see at the pro level. And that comes with focus. That comes with having 3 games in 4 days and staying focused for a full 60 every night. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to do that. But yeah, I think as long as the Mooseheads can stay focused for a 60 every night, they'll be fine.
Well, we look forward to watching this Halifax Mooseheads team, what they're able to do over the weekend. And you guys, of course, can stay in touch with us on X, on Instagram, and make sure you're following our YouTube channel, Halifax Sports Talk, for up-to-date news and post-game shows and much, much more. We are your guys' spot for sports and information in the Maritimes. Speaking of which, let's move on to our next segment. AUS football, Atlantic University sport. We got to touch on some university talk here in the Maritimes. And, well, Daeden, we all love to cheer for a good underdog, but the stage is set for 2 semifinal matchups. And I would be outright shocked if you and I are talking on Monday and we do not see St. Mary's and St. Avex going head-to-head. But, hey, this is why you play the games. There's a reason you play the games. So we have Bishops and X and St. Mary's and Acadia going head-to-head. We both have the numbers in front of us. The head-to-heads, let's just say, have, well, been pretty lopsided.
Yeah, and I just want to say this. Acadia not playing at Raymond Field, so definitely going to have a huge disadvantage. I know Raymond Field in Wolfville under the lights can get pretty pumped up, pretty loud, but they're going down to St. Mary's, and I think they might get spanked here. I'll be honest.
Well, looking at the matchups, 30-8 back in late September. That was the deal for the St. Mary's Huskies over the Acadia Axemen at home. This SMU team has been a force this year offensively, but what I've been really impressed with and going over some of the numbers for them has been their defense. In that game against Acadia, they forced 3 interceptions. They held Acadia to just 96 passing yards. Really, really good job with them in the rushing game. Obviously, when you're up by that many points, the running game can be strong. 147 yards for one running back, 80 yards for the other. You just don't see those types of numbers. But it goes to show this team is strong both in the passing game and in the rushing game. So that'll be huge to see. Number one, if Acadia can manage the ball, limit turnovers, but if they can shut down St. Mary's running game, because if St. Mary's can establish the run, they can keep the ball out of Acadia's hands. And if St. Mary's gets a lead and they start running the ball down their throat, they're in trouble big time. So look, we don't want to always use past scores, but 30-8 38-8. And then, of course, St. FX and Bishops. Well, we just saw a 45-3 spanking. And although Bishops responded the last week of the regular season, they played all right. They put up a good win themselves. This St. FX team has a really good hold on Bishops right now as well.
Definitely. And I just had a thought there while you're going through that. You know those new rules that the CFL adopted this year? Or they said they were going forward with? I wonder if U Sports and Canadian university football will adopt those rules where most of their players will, if they do go on to play football, it's more than likely in the CFL. So I'm kind of thinking, I'm wondering if you'll start to see fields change around here at the university level and rules change as well. That's just something I had a thought of.
I think they're going to get close to that. Right after the rules were changed and adjusted at the CFL level, I think I saw Football Canada put out a note about that. And then, of course, the U Sports will have to adopt to it as well. But it takes time. Like, all of that stuff takes time. We'll see if it ends up being immediate when it comes down to it. But you know who will not like that stuff is the old school guys, the old head coaches, the old coaching staffs. The newer guys might not mind it as much. But I think the big thing in the CFL and Canadian football overall is the clock management. Not only, of course, do we have fewer downs, but the clock works in a different way. And so I think that it really helps ensue more comebacks. Like, if you look at the NFL, when a team is up with like 5 or 6 minutes to go in a game, that game is pretty much sealed, But when you talk about the CFL or U Sports football, the game literally is not over till it's over. You can see some wild comebacks. But looking at this St. FX team, the last time they met, the total yards were 362 to 240. Bishop's passing, well, they had one quarterback start off 2 for 11. Not really a good way to go about it. So this St. FX team, if they can stay disciplined, not take too many penalties, they're going to be real solid. They're just a deep team. They're in the power rankings for a reason at the U Sports level. But Bishops, it's a level of inconsistency for them. But one thing is that travel. The factor there for them, I think it affects them. They've been a really good home team over the last few years, but the road can really affect them as well. So we'll see. But I'd be shocked if we don't end up talking about St. FX and St. Mary's, and a huge one in the Looney Bowl coming up in a few weeks.
Yeah, like you said with travel, it kind of interests me with U Sports how you get some teams in the RSEQ that have to play. Like last year, I was calling games in the OUA, and there was regular season games against Concordia, against Trois-Rivières. So like, there's teams in the RSEQ that play in the OUA. There's teams in the RSEQ that play in the AUS. But then the RSEQ is also a league itself. So you have Bishops coming in here, and they also play Quebec teams all season long. So the travel for them is like, it's almost double what any normal team is doing. And you got to think it takes a real big toll on them, especially in the play. Like come playoff time, they were just at Acadia. Then they would have to go back home, back to Quebec, drive back to Nova Scotia and play St. FX down at the end of the province. So yep. It's got to be tough.
We talked about this with Newfoundland Regiment, right? How it could help them out at home, but it could make matters worse 100% when they go on the road. So we'll see long-term how it ends up working out with Newfoundland. Then again, they get to fly everywhere. At least they're not driving that many places. That could help their case out a little bit, but we will definitely see. Look, I love the buzz in the city when fans get behind, whether it be the AUS basketball or the volleyball, or when the soccer's going well, or the AUS playoffs. And right now the city is rallying around this St. Mary's Huskies team. But we'll see. I mean, I know Acadia, out your neck of the woods, closer to you, they've got a strong fan base as well. And of course, St. FX, you know what it's like there on that campus. Those guys will be going crazy for that matchup. So we'll see. I think that if you're a team like Acadia, you got to manage your turnovers, protect the ball as best as you can, and try and, drag St. Mary's into the fight, keep the game close at halftime. But I think that if you start seeing St. Mary's defense go crazy early on in the game, it's going to be a really long day for the Acadia offense. So defense is the key, but I certainly think we're going to see St. Mary's and X punch their ticket, and it's going to be one hell of a ball game when those two teams meet. If they do, I don't want to jinx it. If they do.
I'll tell you one reason I think Acadia's fan base, this isn't bias or anything, but I really do think one reason that Acadia University, no matter what sport it is, has a big fan base. And that's because Acadia minor hockey feeds so many young players that also play other sports, multi-sport athletes, that when they do play hockey at 11 years old, you're pulling the Acadia logo over your chest and you're like, oh, this is the same logo that these 20-year-olds are wearing at like for the real Acadia Axemen. There was times that went through my head as well. I'm playing 12 years old, but I'm pulling the Acadia logo over and I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. So it's something that some other teams don't have, like St. FX. They don't have any minor sports that are under the same umbrella. So I think it gives Acadia a little bit of an edge sometimes.
It's the community, tight knit community, and you feel a part of the school as well. So looking forward to it, and we'll most certainly be breaking down the AUS finals once we do get there. But we hope you guys enjoy the games this weekend. Also, make sure you're staying in the loop with the Halifax Mooseheads when they're on the road. Make sure you follow us on X, on YouTube for all the information. Don't just follow the team when they're at home. Make sure you're following them when they're on the road as well. But a great start to the season for the Halifax Mooseheads. They keep rolling. And you guys are going to get all kinds of stuff from us, not just Mooseheads talk, football talk, lacrosse talk, soccer stuff, everything here on Halifax Sports YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.